What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. As Daryl points out, Clay is late. Again, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, X, Rumble, MySpace, the Vine. We're on everything here this evening on this. This
Vine.
Yeah.
Did you have a Vine, Clay?
No, man, I couldn't figure out those technological advancements at the time. You kidding me? I heard that a lot of folks did it for the Vine. This guy included, right? He definitely did it for the Vine. So, now listen, I'm glad it's Friday. We had an awesome week heading into the weekend. Got some hot weather on the way. We're supposed to hit 90 tomorrow, so nice. It's going to be beautiful down here. Ready to just all right. Holmes in the chat. Jeez, oh Pete, bub. Ready to talk some Packers. You just got to train yourself not to look at the chat. You know what I'm saying? That's what you got to do. You got to train yourself not to look at the chat. So
mine was just TikTok before TikTok. That's all.
Everybody's asking who's the burner up top. If you guys have watched this show for some time, you can go to the very top of this chat, and I think you can figure out who this is.
Is it this guy right here?
No. Similar status there. So we're going to go ahead and ban this one too. I'm sure you'll create another account, but anyone, like I said, who's watched the show for a while, you'll remember that there used to be someone who watched the show religiously. They would get in here and take over the beginning of the chat and just rapid fire every thought that they had about how the Packers were horrible. Matt LaFleur needed to be fired. Then it was Jordan Love wasn't the guy. Then it was Goody needed to be fired. And then the training staff sucked. And it was a gentleman who sent me a DM. There you go. Sent me a DM on Twitter basically saying, man, you're not going to like my comments tonight. I'm going to let you guys know how it is and blah, blah, blah. So we blocked him. All right, whatever, dude.
Sit your butt outside.
He got blocked, and then every now and again he'll pop in with different accounts, and you know it's him because he just goes rapid fire at the beginning the same way, right? So it is what it is.
And it's a different time zone over there too, so it's like,
right.
Hey, you know.
Yeah, and I always point that out too. So hey, you know, glad he swung through, but yeah, Bates knows who it is. I know Bates knows who it is. So we're going to go ahead and ban this cat. We'll go ban user and delete their comments. So it was nice talking to him. I love how he just immediately started firing on Rashawn Gary's numbers, how bad they were. Didn't even have the accurate numbers. He's one of these people that just, he just kind of hangs out on PFF, looks at the spreadsheet and determines that player's bad without cross-checking anything. So, but with that being said, it's the off season, man. It's June 20th, Tim. You're gonna get that in these June shows for sure, man. People get a little antsy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know, little slow news feed time right now across the league. You know, kind of waiting for certain things to drop. You know, getting excited for camp and preseason ball. So you know, hey, slow news day. What are you gonna do, right?
That's the way it is. I think Chris got it too there. Maybe looks like he might be on the right track. So. All right, I'll tell you who else is on the right track. And that's our boy Christian Watson. I don't know if did you guys see his Instagram post earlier today?
Yes.
Look at this. Look at this right here. Let me see if I can zoom in just a touch. I don't know. I'm trying to do this a little bit different way, but
here's the guy.
Emilio, tell me what you see here with Christian Watson's Instagram post. Let's actually just take it on out here. I put a tweet out and just said Christian Watson looking way ahead of schedule. Someone check on the quote. He's not even running route yet, crowd. They are not well today. As you can see, look at my boy out here. A little out and up, right? Just a little out and up. Listen, there's no sharp cuts, but my man's going about, to me, it looks like he's going about 70% there, right? And starting to cut on it now. We've seen him at practice a little bit, you know, over there with medicine ball, throwing that thing around and doing some other leg exercises. I just want to get your all's take on it, man. To me, this looks – we didn't see Gary doing this stuff, right? Now, granted, if I remember correctly, when Rashawn Gary came back from his ACL, it was kind of everything was in the background in the offseason, and then all of a sudden they go to training camp and he's out there kind of doing stuff, right?
Didn't he have a couple of like workout videos that he did, like where he was like pushing sleds and stuff like that after it?
He may have. I may just not remember it.
But no, but you're not seeing the long kind of like stretch runs, right? I'm happy. I'm happy he doesn't have a brace on. I feel like that's a huge mental hurdle that he's gotten over. And 2, just being able to, all right, I'm going out there and I'm running, I'm strapping up cleats, and like just you have to put blinders on, take your head out of it. Like, all right, I'm just going to run routes like I did when I was 7. Like if it tears again, whatever. Like I can't play scared the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I agree. Think of what it takes to get to the point where they're letting you play without the brace, or they're letting you get to that level in your rehab where you're able to cut like this and run routes. Again, we get all excited, right? He's got no shirt on, running around in his silkies, catching a ball, no coverage. But hey, I mean, this looks really promising, right, guys? I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but
I do.
Maybe Scoop comes back after the bye week 6.
Whoa.
Hold on. You heard it from a fan right here.
I'll tell you, man, there's a lot of people that pointed that out on X earlier when I tweeted this out. They were like, hey, look, first 5 weeks of the season, let him sit it out, start on pup, activate him for week 6, get him out there for a few reps, I could see it, man. I really could. And if that's the case, then that would put him at what? Let's see, if the season starts first week of September, we're looking at mid-October, right? So you're talking about if he stays healthy the rest of the way, playing 10 games. Guys, that's huge. Like, I was expecting 4 games, And
like you said, keyword activated, right, Clayton? Like you make him active. It doesn't necessarily mean he's going to start and, take, 40 snaps right away. You're going to work him back into that lineup a little bit, which would be a good sign to see coming out of that bye week, right?
Right. You got 3 weeks, right? Once you.
Yeah, and as Coach Lynn says here, maybe the tear was not as bad as we previously thought. And that's the thing, like, none of us know that, right, Coach? Like, they're quiet on that stuff, and rightfully so. They're not going to come out and just spill all the beans. Here's everything that was wrong with it, kind of keep that close to the vest, that type of thing. But
right. Maybe nothing happened to the meniscus there. The PCL was good, the MCL was good. Like, maybe it was just a straight ACL tear, and you're new patella, cut that graft, attach it, and you're good to go. But yeah, no, it is nice to see him moving around. Obviously, it's early. Obviously, that, like Tim was saying, nobody's there. I thought it was 2 lacrosse creases for a second. I'm like, what is he doing? But no, just get through the dummies there and run your route. And I think that I'm happy that he's out there.
Dude, as good as that looks, right? This is probably half speed at best. I mean, running real aggressive into those cuts, and then that break, just kind of testing your legs a little bit. But this is like maybe half.
You don't see a chop down or anything, Tim. Obviously, it's one rep, but he probably could have done it. But comebacks or curls, nothing like that, where you're chopping down, putting a lot of stress on the front of the knee. Haven't seen a bunch of that, but also we saw him jump and twist, a couple weeks ago with a weighted ball. So,
at the very least, we can say clearly he has not had any setbacks, right? Like, he's not going to look like this at this point. If he had a setback.
I agree with that, Tim. To me, it's like, also, there's that extra motivation of it. It's not like he signed a 4-year deal. He was in the second or third year of it, and now it's like, okay, let me just ease back into this, get ready for a contract year, and then go at it next year. This is something where he's playing for the big bucks this year. He really is. And if he goes out there, and let's say, and again, guys, we're not guaranteeing this. Obviously, we're not a doctor here. We're not saying, oh yeah, he's definitely he's going to be back 1st of October or even October in general. Let's say,
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
Say he comes back in November, right? And if that's the case, let's say he gets 5 or 6 games in. He's going to be looking to go, hey, look, guys, I'm fully healthy, right? Throw me right back in where I was. And if he goes out there and he averages over 20 yards a catch like he did last year before he got hurt, give him some money. You know what I mean? Like, sign it. Because the other thing that really sticks out to me about Christian, and again, you got to prove that you're healthy. I get that. And they're going to be extra cautious with it too. But the addition of Matthew Golden, rookie contract, right? Jaden Reed, you got him for 2 more years, rookie contract. Dontavion Wicks, 2 more years, rookie contract. You've got the room there that you could afford. I'm not saying pay him $30 million per. But him coming off an ACL, if you notice it right off the bat, like, hey, this dude looks like he's good to go, you could probably get him for $15 million per. Like, I don't think that's unreasonable. You guys correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. Like, I think in his specific situation too, he's looking at it like, man, any offer that I get, and I'm not saying he would just take bottom dollar. Obviously, I'm not even saying to offer that. I'm saying pay him what you think is realistic. And that's why I think it could be a 1 year kind of patch deal there. Like, hey, let's give him a 1 year deal, some guaranteed money, make it worth it. Kind of a prove it deal like we did with Jordan Love coming out of that awkward spot where we didn't really know what we had in Jordan. And I still am of the opinion that Jordan did the team a favor by signing that deal. He could have held their feet to the fire and like, nope, I'm going to test free agency. He could have done that, So I think with Christian, I hope he proves it and he does it in enough time. Like if he does come back in mid-October, proves he's healthy and gets back to where he's 3/4 of what he was from a statistical standpoint, and the Packers just treat it like, you know what, let's do the same thing we did with Gary. He's proven he's healthy. Let's give him some money here. Let's give him a 4-year deal, 3-year deal, whatever it may be. So, as Chris said here, I understand this standpoint too. I need that 1-year deal, y'all. I get that. That's kind of like, I think that's probably the way that Goody would approach it if he proves he's healthy, just to kind of cover, because we know Goody is a little. Am I wrong there? Does it kind of feel like Goody's a little conservative in this regard? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, justifiably so, right? I mean, you call it what you want. I mean, he's coming off injury, right? Let's be real. I don't think Scoot would take a 1-year deal.
No,
maybe I think he's looking for a 3-year or something.
What about a 3-year with like one full year guaranteed? All right, you know that you're going to get that, but can we work on the rest with incentives, or just being able to play in the games and get you back up? But we'll rework it at the end of 2. Going into 3 if you really ball out the next 2 years. So I think that's a possibility. And from Doc in the chat, Holmes MD1, this is fairly remarkable work given the injury timeline, in my opinion.
There you go.
Man. And daily deposits, look at the little text right there. Obviously, man's out there working every single day. It's not like he's taking it off. That's what Jordan was saying in his interview in the locker room there a week or 2 ago. It was just like, yeah, Christian Watson, he's out there working every single day. Like that man just doesn't quit.
Like if anything, you're worried about a guy like Scoot maybe overdoing it, right? You want to keep an eye on him and say, all right, cool, keep putting in the work, but don't overdo it and set yourself back. But so far, so good, man. Looks good.
Yeah. So like when we were kind of talking about that just a second ago with Christian's kind of perspective on the potential deal, you said you probably wouldn't take a 1-year deal, right? Put yourself in his shoes. You're coming off that ACL, right? The market is probably going to be a little bit hesitant if you don't get to prove, hey, I'm fully healthy. Okay. So let's say he does come back November 1 and the Packers are trying to ease him back into that role and they offer him a 1-year deal with a significant amount of guaranteed money. Would you not be enticed to take it? Or are you saying, nope, let's go for the 3 to 4 year deal? Because I guess I'm just basing it off. Oh God, AFM's mom's back in the chat. I'm kind of basing it off of what Jordan Love did. And I think it, again, I don't mean to keep taking it back to Jordan, but it just shows you how much, I don't know what the right word is here, the quality person that Jordan is, that he would be willing to go, you know what? Yeah, I'll take a 1-year prove it deal and prove to you guys I'm the real deal. And then even Goody, you guys remember, Goody was like trying to play hardball the next year. And that's where he's like, okay, I'm going to do a little bit of a hold in here and get his money, obviously. So I don't know, man. I can see both sides. I can understand if he wants a multi-year deal, but I could also see it being something like, let me get a little bit of guaranteed money, prove it to him. I want to be in Green Bay, that type of thing. And obviously, congratulations to Christian. I think his wife's name is Lakin, I believe, as they've got a baby on the way as well. Really, really cool. It could be a huge year for the Watson family.
Absolutely.
Man. Dan Mullen with the super chat said, it would be crazy seeing them give Watson a multi-year deal after biting the bullet on Jair's release. It'll probably happen, though, if he balls out. I think he summed it up perfect there, Dan. It's like, this could go in either direction, because we've seen him give the money to Gary right after the ACL as soon as he proved he was healthy. But then we've seen him kind of hesitant with Jordan, even though it wasn't an injury-related thing. It was more of a prove-it type thing, which I think at the end of the day is very similar situation. Jacob joining us now. What do you think about this, Jacob? We're just watching this video here of Watson. To me, he looks like he's ahead of schedule. And I know there's some Twitter doctors out there that kind of disagree. They're like, oh no, I think he's right on schedule. This is, to me, I didn't expect this. I didn't expect him cutting on it. And granted, they're not hard to cut.
Best guy around.
And thank you for the super chat, Dan. Go ahead, Jacob.
No, I mean, it's definitely encouraging to say the least, to see where he's at this point. I mean, I was amazed just about a week ago watching him do those like overhead medicine ball throws, thinking like, hey, he shouldn't be squatting like that. He shouldn't be jumping around like that, stretching like that. Now to see him progress to this point, like you said, not hard cuts, but them some cuts. I will say that's like Emilio on the mower right there. Them some cuts.
Oh, that's. I mean, I've seen the zigzag picture. It's in the Patreon group. That's basically what I did right there.
Yeah, I mean, that's AI, but whatever. Yeah.
That ain't
He
AI.
definitely doesn't look like tentative, right? He doesn't
No.
look like he's trying not to like hurt himself or anything.
No.
He seems to be running with some fluidity pretty early here.
I mean, he's ran the route 100 times at this point. The dude's ready to go. I mean,
There you go. Drew D with the super chat. Thank you, Drew. He says whether we sign Watson or not might have to do it with guys like Wicks step up or not. Yeah, if Wicks steps up, what that gives me is a little bit of hope for him to play boundary X. I think that's what he's best suited for. But obviously, with the drop issue, that makes it a huge issue because he would be taking over for Romeo Doubs next year. If Romeo Doubs is on the roster and they don't trade him, what I see is Romeo Doubs in the X. I see Matthew Golden in the Z and the moving Z. And I see Jaden Reed in the F or the slot, as most people know it. So that's kind of the starting three that I see. And then you would have Wicks rotating into the boundary X for Rome to spell him, as well as the slot. Bo Melton played a lot of F last year when Jaden Reed came off the field when he was a little banged up. Then you got Savion Williams, who some people think he could play X. I don't know if I feel that comfortable with him playing X. I think we would use him a little more in the Z or the F so he can move around and do some of those jet sweeps and things like that as well, kind of like what Jaden Reed does. But if Jaden Reed can play Z and Savion comes out in camp and he's kind of on fire and proves that he's an NFL caliber player, then kick him into the slot, and then you're rotating Jaden Reed and Matthew Golden in and out of the Z. And some people think Matthew Golden can play X. So what it comes down to is Goody's drafted some pretty versatile players. Like you've got a handful of players that can play pretty much all three positions, and that's absolutely key to Matt LaFleur and how he wants to plug and play these players. Because
His receiving is tough.
he's always said you can't play F in his offense if you don't understand the choice routes. It's just impossible. And what that means is, like, think about it. When you're in the F and you're lined up in the slot, right, and they cheat motion you over to the left to a 2x2 set, you've got to understand the choice responsibilities and the choice route of you being in the number 2 on the opposite side. Or they may even cheat you over to where you cheat to the 1 in kind of like a stack look. We've seen that a lot of times at the boundary as well. So that's the thing that's going to slow someone like Savion down. But like our boy Drew D just said, and thank you for that super chat, Drew. Appreciate you, buddy. If Wicks can step up and take a little bit of that burden off of Dobbs there in terms of just being the X. I said this 2 years ago. Tim, do you remember? And Jacob, I'm sure you remembered as well. We'd be watching tape, and I'd be like, have y'all noticed that they're asking Romeo Dobbs to run go route after go route after go route? I was like, that dude's underappreciated because he's just stretching the field constantly stretching the field. And I know some people roll their eyes at that, but think about having to run a go route, 5 times, 6 times on one drive.
Yeah.
I walk my garbage cans down to the damn curb and I'm out of breath.
What nobody ever talks about is you got to run back. So you're running the 9 up the seam, and then you got to jog back to the huddle, or sometimes sprint back to the huddle,
right?
And then you're being asked to run another go ball. I mean, yeah, I see it, man. It's tough,
and it's just not to mention the blocking, right?
Yep.
We run an outside stretch play, a little outside zone, and you got to put your hands in the chest plate and get in there and get dirty and dig a safety out. Like it's I don't know, man.
No block, no rock.
AFAM's mom evidently been in trouble here lately. She said, I only run go routes when the police are behind me. So there you go. Appreciate that. You heard it from a fan right here. Anything else on Christian Watson here, guys? I thought this was cool, man. I got really excited when I seen this come down the pipe.
Scoot's definitely got better hair than AFAM's mom, for sure.
Ooh,
that's an observation.
I think about 99% of today's population has better hair than And AFAM's mom. Is AFAM in the chat tonight? I feel bad us taking shots at him if he's not in here. You got to talk crap to somebody's face. You can't do it behind their back. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I haven't seen him yet.
All right. Let's move along now to a tweet that came down the pike here. ML Football had tagged their account in and thought this was kind of cool. As we hit on it a little bit earlier in the year. Let's see if I can zoom out just a touch here. We hit on this a little bit earlier in the offseason, but I thought this was cool. He says, predict the 2026 NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. Cast your vote by commenting below. The most commented answer wins. Winners for all fan-voted league predicted. All right, so it says Offensive Rookie of the Year. Here's the finalists, all right, in the Offensive Rookie of the Year prediction. Cam Ward, quarterback for the Tennessee Titans. Ashton Gianti, running back for the Raiders. Travis Hunter, wide receiver for the Jaguars. Omarion Hampton, running back for the Chargers. And our very own Matthew Golden for the Green Bay Packers here. How cool is it that of all the rookies there, of all the offensive rookies, that they chose Matthew Golden as one of the five? You know,
I love it.
And I think it plays Tim a lot into the fact that Christian Watson, we know he's going to start on the pup list, right? So,
Yep.
But I don't know, man. Matthew Golden comes out here and just lights the world on fire. This offense is going to go to another level. And I'm trying to curb the enthusiasm, trying to set realistic expectations. But as we talked about before, Jacob, what did you have the over-under on that, man? You remember what there was a betting site. I can't remember what it was. Was it 650? Is that what it was on his yardage or something like that?
I think it was around 700.
Yeah, I think it was 700 was the over, right? Over 700.
This is 700 kind of give or take, and I think it was only like 4 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
So
if he comes
I'll
out
take
and he
that.
has 700 yards receiving, bro, I just want to get your all's take on that. Because, think about that. And then as he's hitting his stride, Watson comes back off the pup, right? You got Romeo doing his thing at the X. We got Jaden Reed, who's one of the most underappreciated slot receivers. We'll talk about him next as another stat came down the pocket. I just want to get your all's take on this Matthew Golden thing here.
I would just start by saying that, this list here by ML Football, these 5 rookies, man, they're all going to be impact players right away, right? I mean, Cam Ward is going to get a lot of playing time. Ashton Genty, arguably the best back in the draft, right? Travis Hunter, we've talked about him at nauseum. Omarion Hampton, a guy that we talked about throughout the draft process, and of course Matt Golden out of Texas. So, all of these rookies on this list they're gonna get the reps. I fully believe it. We're gonna get to see a good look at these guys early on. So I'm fired up. I think Matthew Golden has just as much a chance as anyone to win that defensive rookie or offensive rookie of the year. Arguably, Ashton Genty, Travis Hunter might give him a run for his money. But then again, Travis Hunter might be busy playing some defense. So you never know.
Yeah.
All I would say is that just shows what the quarterback class was this year too. I mean, I'm excited that Golden's on there, but there's only one quarterback that made the list. Last year that would have been that would have looked a lot different, right? So I think that we tracked down the numbers pretty well this past year in the draft season. Real happy with how we did that, man.
Yeah. Just as like a weird aside, I don't know if I've ever seen a season where a Heisman winning quarterback has less media coverage and less like just overall buzz than Cam Ward does going into the season.
I agree, man.
The guy won, it's just weird. And everybody's just kind of looking him over, passing him over. Just thought that was kind of an interesting storyline. If you want to know, according to Underdog, the seasoned over-under right now. So for Cam Ward, they got him set at 18.5 passing touchdowns is kind of the par. 31.99.5 passing yards, so 3,200 passing yards. Travis Hunter has an over-under set at 4.5 total receiving yards or receiving touchdowns. That is 9.5 total TDs. So they think he's going to get a bunch of TDs doing a bunch of other stuff. They have him set at 749.5 receiving yards, and they have him set with a 1.5 defensive interceptions. Meanwhile, Matthew Golden, his stats now are at 4.5 receiving touchdowns over under or a 749.5 receiving yards. So,
Dang, dude,
they project him having a pretty decent splash this year.
If he cracks 700 yards his rookie year, bruh, especially playing outside, like with Jaden Reed, you knew he was going to get a lot of touches. And what was it? I want to say he was just under 800, I believe, his rookie year. And then last year he cracked 800, he being Jaden Reed. You know what I need to do? Remember when we did that breakdown of Tucker Kraft compared to other great tight ends in Packers history of their rookie year? We need to look at the best rookie performances for wide receivers in Green Bay Packers history and see how close Jaden Reed was to that. Because if I remember correctly, Tim, didn't he break Sterling Sharp's rookie record or something? I seem like I remember us talking about that. Jaden Reed breaking.
Yep, he did. I think it was the most receptions by a rookie, I believe.
There you go. Drew D with another super chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, Golden looks good in shorts, but when the pads come on with contact, he will look even better. He is so strong through contact, losing no speed. And his ability to track the ball, Drew, like seeing him pull up on those underthrown balls and time it just right, high point the ball, use his body. He's got excellent body control. Just one of those dudes that, for me, I really, really think that's the stuff that's been lacking with our receivers a little bit. You know what I mean? Like with Jaden Reed, he had a little bit of a drop issue last year, but the year before, obviously his rookie year, he played great. We seen him in college when we looked at the college tape, especially the year before he came out of college. He made some great catches down the field, but nothing like what Matthew Golden put on tape. And again, I keep going back to the point too that the last two receivers that Brian Gutekunst had first round grades on that we know of, right, were Justin Jefferson and Brandon Ayuk. Those are the last two receivers that I know of that he had that Brian Gutekunst had first round grades on, because there was rumors that he wanted both of those guys in the first round, but they got snatched up, or they got traded up past in the draft process, or they were gone by the time they picked. But if that's the case, to me, that's what you got to compare his evaluation skills when it comes to these receivers, because again, he took Christian Watson in the second round. I think that's panned out pretty good. Other than the injuries, Christian Watson averaging over 20 yards a catch last year. Jaden Reed was an absolute steal in the second round, what that dude did. So what that tells you is, with Goody's scouting evaluation of Matthew Golden, he thinks that he's a better receiver than Christian Watson and Jaden Reed coming out of college. That says a lot, man. It really does. So, again, Drew, thank you for that super chat, buddy. We appreciate it, man. Let's see what else we got. Is there anything else y'all want to hit on here with Matthew Golden? Jacob, I know you were combing through some numbers over. You got anything else, man?
Not with Golden, no.
Okay. Anything else you want to hit on that's fresh on your mind right there that you were just looking at?
A little bit. Not sure if you guys have touched on it yet. Have you heard? This is more maybe of a Clayton talk, because he's more of the salary cap guru type person. Is it odd, one, that Belton has not signed, and if not, why is it all of a sudden a trend that second rounders in the NFL are refusing to sign? And what I'm hearing is that it has to do something with guaranteed money.
Yeah, you can blame Tim's boy. That's who you can blame for that, Mr. Higgins. Yeah, so it was Jaden Higgins, right? Is that what it was? What was his name? Yeah. Tim, you're muted. You're muted.
Yes.
Was that who it was? Jaden Higgins. So he's the one, Jacob, to answer your question. It's becoming a little more of a trend for teams to go a little above and beyond on a rookie that they like a lot in the second round. They're giving them fully guaranteed contracts. So Higgins got a fully guaranteed contract in the second round. As soon as that happened, everybody that got drafted in the second round that hadn't signed their deal yet went, hit the brakes. Let's hold up on signing this deal just yet. I don't think Goody's going to fully guarantee it, but I'm sure they're maximizing their leverage there in that regard. So that's what I think it is, Jacob. I could be wrong. Everybody in the chat, let me know if you disagree with that. But I don't know.
Swing for the fences. You might hit a triple, right? Maybe they're looking to get some guaranteed money out of this deal, and we'll get it worked out.
He's going for the big ask.
Yep.
I thought you said something else. Lord have mercy. Greg Rice says guaranteed money and not wanting to get passed in money by someone drafted after them. That makes a lot of sense, Greg.
Yep.
Sure.
The money level is set though, right? It's just how much you're taking home, or how much you're guaranteed to take home. Because isn't Shamar Stewart's hang up the fact that they're trying to take the injury money or off the field issue money?
And that got confirmed on the GM Shuffle the other day. You guys know how I told you it was the language in which they were trying not to guarantee. They wanted to be able to avoid the guaranteed money if he gets suspended. So it had nothing to do with with anything else other than in the language of the contract. And to the best of my knowledge, I think there's 12 other teams that have done this now. They've utilized this. So what they're saying is, if you get suspended, then we don't have to pay you your guaranteed money. All right. And Shamar Stewart was like, I'm not going to be the first person that y'all do this to. Now, he's not the first person in the NFL, but he would be the first person in the Cincinnati Bengals organization. So, from an agent standpoint, too, and to me, it feels like it's more Shamar taking it personal, but his agent is also, you don't want that stamp on your agency,
right?
That you were the first person that signed with the Bengals organization, where you agree that, hey, yeah, if we have a suspension, a disciplinary suspension, then, and for me, though, I look at it from the organization standpoint, just to play devil's advocate. It's like, why are you worried about getting suspended? You know what I mean? Like, to me, if I go to a job interview and someone is, just there you go. If I go to Mickey D's, keep that up there, Tim. This is perfect for the conversation. If I go to Mickey D's and I say, hey man, look, I need some money, man. You know what I mean? Lot bills due. I need a job here. And they said, all right, cool. We'll pay you. What do you think you're worth? And I'm trying to play modest. I'd say I think
$1 million.
I'm worth $23 an hour. Right. That's what I say that. Right. So now let's say, they say, hey, what do you think about $18 an hour?
And we'll throw in a McDouble at the end of every shift.
Oh my God, you kidding me, dude? Give me that Oreo McFlurry.
McDouble with mac sauce. Woo-wee.
Oh my gosh, man. So if they offer that, right, you sound like you're probably going, that's a lot of money to work at McDonald's, ain't it? Right. And I don't even know what's minimum wage now on average nationally. Is it a national
7 something?
I don't know. Depends on what state. What state do you live in?
I live in Tennessee, Tim. What's your minimum wage up there? I want to know Wisconsin. Do you know?
Are you a tipped employee or not tipped employee?
Not at McDonald's.
I
don't know. They're tipping fast food
Thank you, Drew.
nowadays, guys. I don't know.
$7.25.
I told you 7 something.
Well, I don't trust you, Emilio. Okay, if you haven't called. So if you go in there and they said, hey, minimum wage is $7.25, we'll give you $15 an hour, right? You go, oh, damn, that's all right. Oh, really? All right, that's a good deal. And they said, but here's the deal, man. You can't get arrested. All right. If you get tossed in the clink, if you get arrested for anything, then you're not going to get paid a dime. What kind of person is going to go, whoa, wait a minute now? You understand am I the only one that's seeing it this way? Is it me being a business owner that I'm looking at it through the business owner's eyes as opposed to the employee's eyes? I don't know. Does that make sense or not, guys? Oh, Greg Rice coming in here. Oh, man, the average hourly wage for McDonald's employees in the U.S. is around $13.27.
So you'd be a manager at 15, Clay. So what? I mean, that's tough. I see it the same way you're seeing it, though. Like, how are you going to sign up for a job and be like, all right, I'm ready to pour concrete at 6 a.m., but just in case I get pulled over on the way home, I better be getting paid for tomorrow's job too.
And we're so far off the rails. The chat's throwing up all the numbers. The point is, am I the only one that doesn't see a problem with them saying, hey, look, man, you don't get suspended, okay, or we're going to take your guaranteed money? And I want to get your all's take, and I want to know the chat. Would y'all agree to that or not? I would agree to it.
I think at a bare minimum, it's not too much to ask, like, hey, don't get suspended.
Right.
What are we talking about here? Come on.
Yeah. And then to disagree with it, not only disagree with it, Jacob, but the way he disagreed, he walked out on the last practice and he took shots at the organization to the media as well, saying that y'all want to argue more than you want to win, is what he said. Something like that. Y'all want to be right more than you want to win or something.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jacob?
Yeah, I think that specifically with Cincinnati, this may have to do with also, I think there's a lack of respect for the front office. That just with the way Cincinnati's handled their offseason, with the way they've handled their vets, their re-signings, their extensions, for whatever reason, that just seems like a raging hot dumpster fire. And it's to the point where rookies feel comfortable dressing down that team in public. You know what I'm saying? Like when they haven't even really, when they haven't inked a contract yet, like you technically aren't even really a member of that organization, and they feel confident enough walking in there and kind of dressing them down, which, that's something I definitely am thankful that the Packers aren't dealing with. And just real quick to round out some of these stats, somebody in the chat asked what Jaden Reed's over-under is at. They've only got him at 649.5 yards, underdog over-under for the season. And then Tuck Norris, they have him at 3.5 touchdowns, 574.5 yards. I'm telling you, take the over on all these.
Hammer, especially the touchdowns. Hammer the over on the touchdowns. They got 2 touchdowns off of Y screens last year.
What was that number on touchdowns?
Which one? For Tuck Norris, it was 3.5.
3.5. I was listening to Move the Sticks. DJ and Buck were saying Kyle Pitts has scored an average of 2.5 touchdowns a year. Dude is 10 touchdowns in 4 years. They go, wow, we swung and a miss on that one.
That was bad.
That's wild, man. Those numbers are great.
Real quick, Josh Jacobs, half. They have him at a 0.5 receiving touchdowns. That's the one I'd hammer. I feel like that's going to be – I think he's going to have a receiving touchdown within the first 4 weeks easy. They have him at 10.5 rushing touchdowns and then 1,099.5 rushing touchdowns. I'm sorry, rushing yards for the season.
Mm-hmm.
I just really think they're sleeping on the Packers' abilities. I'd take the over almost on every single one of these categories. Easy.
Yep. Yeah. There you go. All right. Let's move along now to Jaden Reed, little Jaden Reed conversation here, if that's all right with you guys. This came across the old Twitter world the other day, and I thought this was very, very interesting. The tweet said, it was from Football Insights. I'm telling you, it's one of the best follows on X, at FBALL_insights. All right. The yards per route ran leaders when 3+ wide receivers are on the field over the last 2 seasons. So for the last 2 years, 11 personnel, which is the most commonly used offensive personnel. These are the guys that led in yards per route ran. Let me know if you'd like to have these guys on your team as a wide receiver. Puka Nacua at 2.99 led the way. Nico Collins, 2.91. A.J. Brown, 2.7. Drake London, 2.6. Tyreek Hill, 2.6. Rashee Rice, 2.5. Justin Jefferson, 2.5. Brian Thomas, 2.5. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 2.5. CeeDee Lamb, 2.5. Ladd McConkey, 2.5. Mike Evans, 2.3. Jamar Chase, 2.3. And then Jaden Reed at 2.2. So Jaden Reed was, I don't know what number would that be there. It'd be what, 2, 4, 6, 18, probably about what, 13 or 14th in the league in yards per route ran in 11 personnel. You guys understand that those are number one receiver top numbers. And again, people say, well, why isn't his overall yardage higher? Look at his snap count the last 6-7 games of the season. They took his snap count way down because he was banged up, right? And yes, he had a drop issue. I got you. But even with that, look at his yards per route ran, how he made up for it,
Yep.
And I want to point out, like I put in this tweet up here, I said, Jaden Reed right on the heels of Jamar Chase and Mike Evans. And you guys remember when everybody was screaming trade for DK Metcalf? He had more yards per route ran than DK Metcalf, Christian Kirk, George Kittle, Khalil Shakir, Chris Godwin, like I said, DK Metcalf, Jalen Waddle, who's getting paid bank, if I remember correctly, Malik Neighbors, who everybody was just crazy over the, all-world Malik Neighbors last year as a rookie. Cooper Kupp. We know
Malik Neighbors needed a quarterback, though, so we'll see what happens.
Cortland Sutton, Michael Pittman, T. Higgins. Y'all remember that name?
Oh, yeah.
T. Higgins. And, by the way, Devontae Adams. So
it's interesting you say Bird's putting up, comparable to wide receiver number one kind of numbers. Look at the list. I mean, A.J. Brown, Drake London, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamar Chase. I mean, arguably, like, those are all number one caliber dudes with their teams. So clearly Bird's in good company right here on this list.
Yeah, definitely.
The only question I have, Clay, is what's that 99% on his column?
That's the percentage of routes, okay? So I think what that means is the percentage of routes they ran for their team in 11 personnel. So, like,
gotcha.
But here's the thing about yards per route ran, you can kind of throw that out the window. It's not a total stat. It's like every time they run a route, whether they got the ball or not, this isn't yards per target either. This is every time they ran a route, they averaged that many yards gained. So even when they wasn't getting the football, this is all factored in. Does that answer your question, Emilio?
Yep.
Yeah. So again, when you take that into consideration, him running 99% of the routes in 11 personnel. And then look at like Nico Collins. Of course, he got hurt last year, right? Drake London, 56%. Everybody loves Drake London. He only ran 56% of the routes that were ran in 11 personnel for the Falcons, if I'm understanding the stat correctly. So main thing I'm keyed in on, though, is that yards per route ran, Amelia. Trying to figure out what would TSHR be? I wonder what that means. You nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed it. So anyway, just another stat that how many times are we going to look at this? Passer rating when targeted through the roof, right? He was had the highest passer rating when targeted amongst all wide receivers in the entire NFL last year in Jaden Reed, right? His yak yardage was through the freaking roof. I don't know what else he's got to do to earn the respect that, hey, this dude is a legit one of the best slot receivers in the game.
He took a step back last year, Clayton.
I know it, man. It's just crazy that people still, and it comes down to emotion is what it is. It's, he has a drop. And again, I remember the one that Twitter lit up over was on that 4th down where Jordan missed him. He had to dive for it, hit his hands, and everybody's like, well, hit your hands, you got to catch it. So I thought this was another really cool statistic that just kind of backs up the top of player that Jaden Reed has been. And again, he had better numbers this year than he did his rookie year. He got better. I think he's continuing to ascend. I really do. So,
Share, according to Jacob, and United Bates has it as in NFL receiving stats refer to target share, which represents the percentage of a team's total pass targets directed to a specific receiver during a game or season.
Ooh, I like
Thank you
that.
for that, Bates. So when you look at that number, 99% of the routes, right? That was ran in 11 personnel for the Packers, and he only got 20% of the targets is essentially what it is, target share, right? And you look at some of the numbers of the other guys, like Amon-Ra St. Brown probably leads the way here at 29%, A.J. Brown at 28%, right? So Malik Neighbors got 30.5%. They were just chucking and ducking to Malik Neighbors the entire time, right? So looked like Devontae Adams, 28.2. No surprise there with Aaron Rodgers being the quarterback. So anything else there on the Jaden Reed statistic? I thought that was kind of cool there. And thank you, Drew, for the super sticker, buddy.
No, I think that's good numbers to check in on this time of year. Jaden Reed, man, he's a dog. We're hoping that he blows up, right? Get us over 1,000 and see what happens.
Absolutely.
I mean, that is pretty crazy just because of we constantly hear the same old story. If we don't have an X, we don't have a number one. We don't have an X, we don't have a number one. You look at that grouping right there. That's most of those guys are a solidified, bona fide X number one. He's smack dab right there with those numbers.
Yeah, completely agree, man. All right, that's going to do it for hour 1. For those of you listening on the pod, we will see you on the other side for hour 2. We're going to talk a little Carrington Valentine, maybe getting into a little Ed policy talk as well. We'll see you over there.
For those of you listening on the pod,
welcome into hour 2. Let's talk a little Carrington Valentine, man. Here's another tweet that went out, and it was by the 33rd team, and I just added a little something to it because I thought it was worth mentioning here. So their original tweet, this is what it said. Passer rating allowed when targeted in 2024. And it's talking about the Baltimore Ravens' new cornerback room, okay, or DB room in general. Marlon Humphrey, 58.5. Nate Wiggins, 59.7. Jair Alexander is now had the 3rd best passer rating when targeted on the Baltimore Ravens team here at a 77.6. Kyle Hamilton, 82.9, and Chidobe Awuzie at a 94.4. The league average passer rating last season, 92.3. So anything underneath 92.3 in passer rating when targeted, you would be considered above average. Now, if we go back to my last tweet there, if I can get it to pull back up here, I added to this Carrington Valentine, who is set to replace Jair Alexander at the right cornerback position, had a 69.0 passer rating when targeting, significantly better than Jair's 77.6, with the same amount of targets at 30. According to NFL Pro, they got targeted the same amount of time. So people say, well, he played more snaps, right? Jair was hurt, this and that, right? It's the same amount of targets. His passer rating when targeted was a 69. Jair's was 77.6. Both of them finished with 2 interceptions. And in touchdowns allowed, Jair allowed 2 touchdowns. Carrington Valentine did not allow 1 single touchdown. And, they're kind of running this victory lap, and the 33 is pumping it up like, man, look how good this DB room is here with Jair Alexander's addition. And on the flip side, us as Packer fans are looking at it like, we just got our favorite dog stolen or something. Like Carrington Valentine played just as good as Jair Alexander last year. And you notice, you look at those numbers and go, it sounds like he played better, Clayton. You could say that, but again, I feel like Ja, if anything, kind of broke off of his assignments from time to time, and Carrington just kind of stayed pat with the assignment that was called. So I want to get your all's take on this.
Anybody who's watched this show more than once knows that I'm the biggest Jair stan on earth. I've been carrying the torch for Jair since 2018, and so I don't say this lightly when I say that I believe CV is going to step up. He's going to step into that role, and he's going to solidify his role as a starter in this secondary. It's going to happen. It might not happen right away, but I think somewhere, between opening weekend and, the halfway point of the season, I think we're going to see a lot of CV. Hell, we saw a lot of them last year, to your point, Clayton. We saw a lot more of him than we saw Ja last year, and I thought, Carrington played some really good football. I think, changing the jersey number and going into the year was a, fresh start, new approach for him. And, when Ja was out, he stepped up and basically assumed that he was going to be that dude, and he answered the bell. So I think this year it's going to be more of the same. We should see him take another step. I'm not saying he's a shutdown corner or, anything like that, but certainly a young player in this secondary that you can bank on is going to make positive steps this year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like I went over last night, I think it was, reading off all those, there's so many corners in there, right? Like Baltimore has a bunch of secondary players, and just even getting them all on the field at the same time, right? You can throw out numbers all we want, we can go over all this, but there's only 11 guys that are going to be on the field. And if you have that, I think we were talking about, you have Nate Wiggins on the outside, you have Ja on the outside, where are you going to put? You can put Marlon Humphrey in there. You got your 2 safeties. Who's going to tackle them once they get to the second and third level? If you're betting on Ja, we love him, right? But we knew that his tackling wasn't the best. He was just going to kind of steer him towards the middle. If you're relying on him to hold an edge, or if he's going to be your outside container or anything like that, you might need to kind of work the defense around that.
Yeah. Jacob, you good?
Yeah, I mean, not to completely mimic Tim, but I think that CV really is coming into his own this year. And I think that people are going to understand that he is not just a filler guy, that he deserves to be a household name. And I believe what was one of the comments I saw over here, that basically, like Packers on top of saying CV has a hell of a personality too. That's a lot. He's a large personality, much like Jair. However, I think that he's younger, he's hungrier, he's more willing to back it up by actually throwing in, a little more physicalness to his game. And I think that we are just maybe scratching the surface of what his potential is. I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if he goes out and he puts up a very good performance. Like I'm talking, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a Pro Bowl type guy. I think he's that good. I think the defense is. I think Hafley's going to put him in a position that's going to make him get the best out of his potential. And I really do think that the Jair thing had to come down to it. Like you can't argue with me logically and tell me that Hafley didn't just probably say, hey, I can't get much more out of Jair than what we got out of him last year.
Right.
Like if the guy's not willing to go out and play, there's only so much I can scheme up. And you know what? I'm sick of freaking having my scheme ready to go. And then 10 minutes before the game, I throw the freaking thing out the window. I almost just swore. Oof. I throw the thing out the window. And here we are just playing, and still we were a top 5, top 10 defense in most categories with playing that sort of hodgepodge, never knowing exactly what the hell we're going to do going into a game. So I think this may be a blessing in disguise. Like Tim said, it may be a little rough in the few weeks, but come mid-season, I think that we have ourselves a pretty solidified group with CV at the front.
And there's going to be some people, Emilio, that say like, when it comes to cornerback, you got to kind of throw those stats out the window because a real good corner won't get targeted a lot, right? Like they'll, you know what I mean? That type of approach, right?
Kind of like that, right? Like what?
Listen to this. Jair Alexander only played 347 snaps. Carrington Valentine played 516.
Mm-hmm.
Guess how many times Jair Alexander was targeted? And I kind of already told you, but he was targeted 30 times. Carrington Valentine was targeted 30 times as well. Think about that. He played almost 200 more snaps than Jair did last year, and he was targeted the same amount. Teams were not scared to throw towards Jair.
Right.
And I'm not saying they're scared to throw toward Carrington, but if we're going to throw the rest of the stats out and go, yeah, but how often because what that typically means, guys, is when someone is targeted, far fewer times with more snaps, it means their guy isn't open, is what it means. And then when you couple that, okay, let's cross-check that. PFF's coverage grade, Carrington Valentine's was a 71, if I remember correctly. So that checks out all the way around. Then you got the passer rating when targeted, the touchdowns allowed, the interceptions. Oh, by the way, people were saying, well, he's going to tackle just as bad as Jair Alexander. He won't put his nose in there either. Guess how many stops Jair had? And again, stops means you made the tackle that prevented them from getting the first down. Guess how many stops Jair had out last year?
2.
Yep, you got it. 2. Guess how many Carrington had?
12.
7.
15.
Damn.
So again, we're not saying that he's going to go out there and play the run like Rod Woodson back in 1999.
Right. Can we talk about that for a second too? Because the same fans that want that DB to lower the boom and make the tackle are the same ones that are upset that Ja's never been the same player since he lowered the boom and blew up that shoulder, right? So let's be real. I'm looking for my CB to play with his brain and then his body second. So if you've got good athletic ability, but you have high FBI and you know where you need to be and you're getting picks and PBUs and you're playing within the scheme, I'll take that over a guy that's willing to just run in there with reckless abandon and just blow up, a hit or something. So just food for thought, man. Play with your feet, your hips, and your head if you're a DB, man. We don't, save the power hits for our safeties and our linebackers and our, D-line group.
Yeah. CJ Yen says, guess how many 100-yard receivers Ja gave up? CS?
I think it's verse.
Versus how many 100-yard receivers were against us.
I don't quite understand what that means. Let us know in the chat now that you got us.
You got me intrigued there, CJN, but I'm an idiot, man. You got to really spell things out for me, man. I'm a moron. Yeah, and again, when you look at some people go to just, they'll just go to blanket statistic sites, like a Pro Football Reference or an NFL.com. I like NFL Pro because they break things down with tape, right? And you got to be real careful where you get numbers from. But I was trying to understand what he was asking there. Somebody marked it, so I assumed you guys knew what he meant, but you didn't. So here we are.
I was waiting for him to follow up, but then he didn't, and it just.
I was going to look at hustle plays here too. Hustle plays. Jair had 0 hustle plays. Carrington had 2, so he led him in that category as well. It's pretty wild, man. When you really
younger too. I mean, it all makes sense, right? Younger, healthier. It's just the way of the league. Not for long is what we always reference back to.
Yeah, I love what Drew D said here. I just use whatever stat benefits my argument at the time. That is 99% of the public right there, sir. That's for sure, man. So, yeah, let's see here. United Bates says, how many times a receiver had a 100-yard game versus us that was being covered by Ja versus someone
I got you.
else? Okay, gotcha.
Well, the first game Ja gave up 100, right, to Antonio Brown or to AJ Brown.
Yeah, AJ Brown ate his lunch in that first game. Man. He really.
Yeesh.
And again,
I don't know. I'm not a doctor.
if you were to look at Ja's best game last year, it was Tennessee probably, right, where he had the pick 6. And again, when you see that pick 6, and you go, man, what a play. Yeah, Ja, bro, he did not cover. That was not his coverage responsibility. He broke completely off of his deep zone responsibility and jumped around. And if that hits him with a double move, we're talking about the same thing A.J. Brown did to him in week 1, But,
yeah, or if QB, throws that pump fake, you're in trouble. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's see here. CJN said, all year we had 2 wide receivers that had 100 yards receiving against our defense. Ja gave up 1 against the Eagles and didn't play much. Did he have?
You think God never farted?
he may have had limited snaps in that game. I can't remember. It was so long ago now.
But he's saying we only gave up 2 as a defense, right? So
And he gave up-
that's impressive. And one of them was week
Oh, I
one.
see what he said. Overall,
Yeah.
didn't he?
Right, yeah. One of them was week 1 with Ja. The second one probably was Keyshawn, would be my guess.
Yeah, definitely. And Keyshawn's are I'll drop this down now again, just wanted to hit on that. Let me see if I can get NFL Pro up here. And let's just take a little bit more detailed look at the secondary from a statistical standpoint. I want to hit the game tape so bad and see those tackles that Carrington made or those stops, but you guys know how that goes. So this is just going to look like a bunch of numbers here, but I'm going to try to cipher it out for you. Like when we go to targets, again, a good indication of how well a person is covering from a cornerback standpoint is how many times they're targeted, right? If they're not targeted much, it means they're covering their guy. Look who got targeted the most for the Packers in the DB room. Keyshawn Nixon with 92, and it wasn't even close. Second was Eric Stokes at 50.
Wow.
Then it was Javon Bullard at 45, Isaiah McDuffie 43, Quay Walker 43, Eric Wilson 37, Jair Alexander 30, McKinney 30, Carrington 30, Evan Williams 29. Look at Cooper's number. People are like, I am not throwing near 56. That son of a gun is
Here's the guy.
So where are those 80 targets going to go? You know, where do you think they're going to get dispersed? How many of those Hobbs are going to pick up? Is Carrington's number, just taking into account Stokes 50 targets and Jaws 30 targets? You got 80 closing in on 100 targets that are going to get dispersed throughout the secondary now. I hope, Carrington, steps up. Key kind of steps up, but we'll see.
And Keyshawn played left corner from the defense's perspective, not the Madden cam, right? From the defense's perspective. Keyshawn played left corner and Carrington played right corner. I think that's what they're planning on doing. They'll put Hobbs in the slot in the nickel.
And Keyshawn also had that kind of that insecurity, if you will, for lack of a better term, of knowing that if Bull goes down in the slot, I got to step into that slot role again. Absolutely. I think going into this year, Keyshawn knows he's a boundary guy. Right. It's probably him and CV out there, and your slot guys are Nate Hobbs and Javon Bullard. So that might give Keyshawn a little bit of stability to get his legs under him and really lock into that role. And if he shores up that opposite boundary, opposite of Valentine, I mean, we're going to be in business, guys, for sure.
Yeah, so I think Keyshawn will play left corner, right? You'll have Carrington on the right. You'll have Nate Hobbs in the slot. And now the question becomes, when they go to a base, when they go to a 12 or 21 personnel, which corner comes off the field? I personally think right now it's going to be Carrington coming off the field, and they're going to keep Keyshawn out there. I wish that were not the case, but that's probably what it would be. Now, let's say that Carrington just absolutely blows up in training camp and they decide, hey, look, he is going to be the starting outside corner in our base 4-3 defense alongside Nate Hobbs. That means Nate Hobbs would kick out to the left, right? And Keyshawn will go to the bench, and you keep Carrington out there. I hope that's what they do to try to prove, hey, Carrington's the guy until he proves otherwise. Because again, Keyshawn's numbers they're pretty bad. When you look at the passer rating when targeted, it's covered up right now. There it is. 101.2 was his passer rating when targeted. Guys, to put that into perspective, Eric Stokes' was 102.4, right? And again, why did you go get Nate Hobbs? Javon Bullard, 124.5. But how much of that was him as a safety and them attacking him at the safety position, right? And again, it's not to say these numbers are perfect either. There's going to be error even at NFL Pro, but what I like about NFL Pro is all of these numbers, you could just jump in there and watch the tape on each one of these numbers that you can click on. So, let's see what Daryl said. He's mentioned this a couple times here, if I can get the pull up. He says depth is not a problem. They just need to have those rookies run with the vets for a few months, and they'll be good to go. When you think about the depth too, like when you look at the cornerback room, if we think depth for a cornerback room real quick, let me pull up the depth chart so we don't miss anything here real quick.
You ready to go?
So depth chart at corner. Let me drop that comment down now. I feel like I'm playing a Rubik's Cube over here. So Keyshawn Nixon, and then you got Nate Hobbs is how they've got it listed, Carrington Valentine, and then you got Micah Robinson after that. Javon Bullard obviously going to play nickel back there, and they got Kalen King as the backup nickel, which I think Nate Hobbs may indeed end up being the winner there in that battle. Their depth does seem like a little bit of a problem at corner, don't it? What do you think, guys? Do y'all think we got a little bit of a depth problem at corner, or no? Because I mean, think about it. Let's say Carrington goes down. Let's say Carrington gets hurt.
Oh, then we have a problem. Yes.
Yeah. Then I mean, who's it going to be? Micah Robinson, or is it going to be? You know what I'm saying? But I guess if you have one of those guys go down, then Nate Hobbs kicks outside and you bring Javon Bullard in the slot, right? That's the goal there. So
Jamal Haddon. Come on now. Kalen King.
Yeah, Kalen King. Yeah.
Deadfish says, "Where's Bo Melton? Don't you start this again, Deadfish. Don't you start this." Oh man. So I don't know, man. It's gonna be fun to see how camp unfolds and where these guys kind of fall into place. Prince in the chat says we seem set at slot corner, so the guy to watch for me on the boundaries of backups, Kamal Haddon. I thought he was a mid-round pick, and surprise he lasted till the late sixth. If I remember correctly, we had a little bit higher grade on Kamal Haddon as well. Let me see if I could find him.
I think we did. I agree with Prince there. Like that would be the name you're looking to. Like if we had somebody get banged up relatively early, I'm looking at Haddon and King to step up.
Yeah, I had a 7th round grade on Haddon, so he was a little bit lower than where the Chiefs took him, but obviously the Packers seen it worthy to sign him there.
We're really deep at safety, though. I mean, if you had an injury, you're looking at guys like Omar Brown, you're looking at KT Oladapo. Hell, you're looking at even Evan Williams possibly playing corner in a pinch if you need him to.
Right. Mike Berry said you can always put Travis Glover out there.
Here's a guy.
I've been trying to say that for a long time.
Or even if you're good enough at safety that you take a guy like X and maybe X has to go play a corner on a Sunday or something, and then you trust Bullard and Williams back there, or Oladapo and Williams or something.
Since you mentioned Oladapo, man, look at Oladapo's passer rating when targeted, 39.6.
Yep.
But he only got targeted one time. It's showing, right? So you got to kind of throw that out. But how many snaps? He ended up playing, 64 snaps, had 4 tackles, actually had 2 stops, 2 hustle. Both those stops were hustle plays, obviously.
If he gets some playing time this year, man, I'm going to freak out.
That's the other thing.
So excited.
That's one of those dudes that it's going to come down to him and Zane Anderson as that backup safety, I believe. Of course, Javon Bullard's going to have a say in that too. I know it's a small sample size, but I'm a little sour on Javon Bullard playing safety. I feel like he played better in the slot than safety. I could be wrong, but I don't know. It's just kind of how I seen that last year. When you look at the other guys here, I mean, Cooper is just an absolute dog in coverage, 57.1. My God, man. I mean, just look at how many columns are full here. You know what I'm saying? He ended up with 469 snaps, 55% playing time. He had 180 run D snaps, 77 tackles, 47 stops. Did he lead the team in stops? 47 stops. He led.
McDuffie had 45.
Yeah, dude. McDuffie catches a lot of heat because this number right here, 124.1 passer rating when targeted. But in the run, he's a thumper, man. He's definitely a thumper. So
he's also pretty good in that mid-range pass defense. It's when you need him to turn up field and run up field, it becomes an issue. But the swing pass or the screen or things like that, I feel like he's decent. But Zay McDuffie's strength is definitely the run fit for sure.
Yeah. So in terms of stops, you got Edgerrin Cooper with 47, McDuffie with 45. Now keep in mind, McDuffie had 663. He had 200 more snaps than Edgerrin Cooper and 2 less stops. Like, that's how damn good Edgerrin Cooper was. Quay Walker finished with 711 snaps and only 40 stops. Rashawn Gary, as a defensive lineman, he led all of our defensive linemen in stops with 39. That's what we were talking about with him and his run defense last year. Keyshawn Nixon had 36 stops. I mean, that's something that he did do well when he did play the slot. He's willing to stick his nose in there. Eric Wilson finished with 32. Javon Bullard with 31.
Dog.
Yeah, that's definitely his strength at the slot position, is helping in the run fit and kind of playing everything underneath, reading and recognizing and diagnosing those screen passes. Another thing, he's really to get those smoke screens and bubbles and stuff. Kenny Clark finished with 28 stops. Kingsley Enagbare, 26. TJ Slayton, 24. Devontae Wyatt, 20. So Devontae Wyatt, this is a good way to do this number 2. Emilio, do you have a calculator handy by chance?
I do.
All right. Let's see who had the best run stop rate real quick. We'll do this in real time. I want to focus on defensive linemen here. Kenny Clark do 247.
Yep.
Right? And he had 28 snaps. So that would be what, 247 divided by 28, or would it be 28 divided by
8.8%.
Okay, so we had 8.8%. Now let's go to Devontae Wyatt. 101, pretty much 20%, right? Because he had 101 run defensive snaps and 20 stops. That's what, 19.999%, whatever.
Right.
So again, you say Kenny's run stop rate was 8%?
You said 247 divided by 28, right?
Yep.
Right, I'm sorry, 28 divided by 247. 11%. There we go. Sorry.
Okay, so he was 11 to Devontae Wyatt's 20%. Now,
Right.
keep in mind, Kenny played one tech in the nickel while Devontae Wyatt played 3 and 4I. But was something that got kind of overlooked last year is Devontae Wyatt played a lot better run defense. A lot better run defense. Oh, you can't say that PFF had a bad run defensive grade on him. I know. But you want to go look at the stops, we could click right here and watch the tape if you want to. You know what I mean? Like, so that's something. And again, when you look at the numbers and his PFF grade, he led all of our interior defensive linemen with the highest PFF overall defensive grade, right? So that checks the box. The run stops on NFL Pro checks the box. And then what does the front office think about him? Well, they just slapped a 5th-year option on him worth a pretty good chunk of change. So they see the value of Devontae Wyatt. So I think Devontae Wyatt they're seeing him as the 3 tech of the future, what it seems like. And I hope he really, really evolves in that role. Looking at Evan Williams here. Well, let's see. Is there anybody else on defensive line that we're missing from a defensive tackle standpoint? Because TJ Slayton's gone, right? It'd be Carl Brooks, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, or Wooden, if he's been bulking up like they've been saying.
Yeah, Wooden played 85 snaps. I do 12 divided by 85. There you go. 12 divided by 85.
85. That put him at 14%.
Yeah. Not bad, right? Not too shabby. And then when you look at Carl Brooks, 19 divided by 140, what's the number you come up with?
That puts him at 13.5. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Now, when you go to Evan Williams, passer rating when targeted, only a 67.5. My man, he played some good football, man. Darn good football. He had 20 stops as well. To put that into perspective, he had more run stops than Xavier McKinney, although I think we would agree Xavier played a little more post than Evan did. Evan was kind of in the box around the ball, that type of thing. When it comes to our boy Rashawn Gary, give me a 39 divided by 210, Emilio.
39 to 10. That would put us at 18.5.
His run stop rate was 18%.
Come on now. 1 in 5 plays, he's stopping them.
That was, and people are wondering how he made the Pro Bowl. That's his run defense took a step forward big time, man. And then, of course, he had a 13.4 quarterback pressure percentage. So when we look at the pressure percentage, again, you got to throw some of these DBs and linebackers out with the bathwater because it's going to be overly inflated. So when you get to the actual defensive lineman, Brenton Cox Jr., 13.7%, Rashawn Gary, 13.4%. All right, Lucas Van Ness, 11.2%, Devontae Wyatt, 9.7%, Kingsley Enagbare, 9.4%. And then you got to get all the way down to, I think Aaron Mosby's, he's gone this year. Practice squad, or they'll cut him outright because you bring in this new fresh blood, Barron Sorrell. If you're truly looking at Colin Oliver as a hybrid top edge defender / stack backer, that 8.5% pressure rate is just not going to get it for an edge defender.
Right.
Kingsley's kind of on the ropes there too, man. He really is.
Get ready to go.
Under 10%. I love it too that Kingsley was targeted in the passing game 11 times and he gave up 10 receptions. That's not a good rate there, Tim.
No.
Not a good rate at all. That 55 drop wasn't working in that regard.
Negative. Yep.
That's brutal.
Yeah. All right.
I'm excited to see. I'm just excited to see some of the numbers, get moved around for playing time and things like that. Just sort of seeing who's out there. I mean, we're going to keep that hockey line, see what the new, D-line coach is all about over there, and kind of just get this team humming.
When you look at yards allowed in the passing game, Keyshawn Nixon, 569 leading the way. The next closest one is Javon Bullard at 385. Then Isaiah McDuffie, 353. Quay Walker, 353. Eric Stokes, 343. Eric Wilson, 327. Xavier McKinney, 275. Carrington Valentine 262 and Jair Alexander 244. Now, when you go yards allowed, you want to kind of tie that to snap count. And if you're looking at that and going, man, Xavier McKinney gave up a lot of yards, 275 yards allowed on 1,015 snaps. Pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. So, and then, of course, touchdowns allowed. Keyshawn, I hate to say it, but Keyshawn had a bad year, man. He had a bad year. If he is the starting corner out there to kind of take Ja's place, me no like you that, Jan. Me no like you that at all. I hope they give Carrington a shot to win that job. I really do, man. So,
what if Carrington and Hobbs win it and Key's the rotator?
Yeah, that's the way I would go, man. I'm telling you. And then when you're in the nickel, you have no choice, right? But here's the other thing too. Like Tim, when we're talking camp battles, think about this. You're trying to identify who are your three corners, right?
Yep.
There is a chance that Javon Bullard. Here's the three-way kind of tie that you got to break. Keyshawn Nixon, Javon Bullard, and Nate Hobbs, right? Is Javon Bullard or is Nate Hobbs so much better on the outside than Keyshawn Nixon that it's a net gain with Javon Bullard kicking to the slot as opposed to – it's going to come down to can Javon Bullard play the slot better than Keyshawn Nixon plays outside? Does that make sense? Where those are the rotating pieces there. It's like – and maybe that is the answer. If you were to go just strictly off the stats alone, Javon Bullard's passer rating when targeted – where you at, sir? I know I've seen it earlier. Javon Bullard was he was 124.5, so he had a worse passer rating when targeted than Keyshawn Nixon, for sure.
Got to work on those coverage skills and ball skills, for sure. That's why I think, having this conversation makes me think all the better reason for a guy like Kalen King to step up and just, make his name known in camp battles. If we get one of these younger corners to step up, it might make things a little easier when we're trying to formulate that lineup. But, I would agree. I think, flip a coin. Who would you rather have in the slot, Keyshawn or Bull? I don't know. I think, honestly, despite the fact that he's, still developing and maybe struggles with some coverage skills, but I'd probably take Bullard over Keyshawn in the slot at this point. So if we're just trying to find our three, who's going to step up?
It's tough, man. Number one Packer fan says, I don't see Nixon as CB1. Sorry, not sorry. I'm with you there, Bob. And I know he said that, and you want him to say that. You want him to want to be CB1, but there's nothing I'm seeing that would suggest that he can be. Chuck Goodman says, I've never seen the hype of Nixon playing outside. I always thought he wasn't very good. I seen it a little bit, Chuck, but it was just because he was so bad in the slot.
Yeah,
I felt like he played better outside, and I'm glad you bring this up, Chuck, too, because sorry about that. I'm glad you bring this up because that passer rating when targeted, Tim, that's grouping in the slot snaps as well as the outside. So.
And I wonder if what you're saying. I think there's validity to that point, right? Like, did Keyshawn really play that well on the boundary, or did it just look that good compared to how he played in the slot? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And let's see here. Drew D says maybe Robinson or someone else off the radar can step up. That would be awesome if Micah Robinson.
That's what I was saying. I agree with Drew on that. Micah Robinson, Kalen King,
Kamal Hadden,
dude in the parking lot selling popcorn. Somebody, whatever.
And
I think we're just so deep at safety that corner doesn't worry me as much because I think that they're going to rotate them. They're going to move them around more than we think. I think that our safety room is actually kind of stacked. And then we're looking at it as, all right, we have a top three on our corners. We'll figure out 4 or 5 maybe, but maybe we need to thin out corners so that we can carry one more player in on the 53. We can get around if these guys stay on the practice squad, then we'll move them up. Still going to have to get Christian off the pup. I feel like they knew that they were okay or they were happy with what they had, or else we wouldn't have been approaching Ja like that.
We talked about the possibility of 3 safety looks as well.
Yeah,
where you've got X, you've got Williams, and you've got Bullard back there. And then maybe you're, mixing up your personnel at corner.
Yeah, Daryl in the chat says Valentine is a potential CB1. I really, man, he's either going to take another step forward or he's going to revert back to his rookie year. There's no staying the same in the league, in my opinion.
Right.
Taking a step forward means you stabilize. Like, all right, yeah,
Right.
he's going to continue to play as well as he did last year. I'm with you there, Daryl. I would lean towards CB1, man. I would. And I know we got Nate Hobbs on the roster, but it's not like Nate Hobbs' tape is showing, hey, this dude is a cornerback one. They didn't play him like a number one, or they didn't pay him like a number one corner. I know that. So that would suggest he is a number two corner. Chris Casualin says, wow, Packers really thin outside cornerback when you go through it like this. I like doing these exercises. And again, this is why, like, I would rather have had Ja back.
Yeah.
Here's the reality. Jair is better than Keyshawn Nixon at corner. I feel comfortable saying Jair is a better corner than Carrington Valentine. I'm just simply pointing these numbers out. Like, the idea that they're way far apart is just simply untrue.
Right.
So that's why I was going to, why not guarantee him $10 million? Let's try it one more year. You save on $7 million. So you're essentially going to save $7 million against the cap if he does go out and get banged up, get hurt again, right? But if he stays healthy, imagine Carrington Valentine on one side and our boy Jair Alexander on the other, and then you got Nate Hobbs in the slot. That looks a lot better than what we've got right now. However, I can't say I agree with Goody's move. I just can't, man. Like, and again, if it's true what Jair's dad said, that they would have been willing to stay for $6 million guaranteed and $8 million overall, you should have done that deal. You should have got that done. But who knows if it was that cut and dry too. You know, I was hearing Wildy talk. I think it was on God, I can't remember, Jim, Matt, and Molly, I believe is the name of the show. And I heard Wildy talk about, like, he never heard that there was a definitive offer on the table. So it could have been that they had talked about those numbers, but there wasn't like an offer that was presented like, hey, here's this. And they turned, you know, and the team turned it down like, no, we're not going to do that. But it was just more or less like I'm kind of paraphrasing here from what he said. If I understood him correctly, and you guys go listen to it yourself, it sounded like Jair's camp knew they weren't offering that much by the way the talks kind of materialized. But I understand what you're saying, Chris. That's kind of how I feel there, man, too, it is a little thin outside. You're one injury away from going, oh, crap. But I think it was you that said it, Emilio. Maybe it was you, Tim. I can't remember. The fact that you got some all-pro level safety play behind you, that can really, really, really help. Really help.
The other thing I think we're not talking about, too, is, you know, not that I'm in Brian Gutekunst's head or anything, but if you keep Ja and you do give him that offer and he does stay, you know, we signed Nate Hobbs. Okay, well, when we go down to roster cuts, who are you kicking off this team, you know, at the cornerback position? And is Ja going to be, being on this roster, going to be a progress stopper for some of your younger guys, especially considering the fact that you're holding a roster spot for him and you may not get him for more than half the season? You know, these are variables that came into play, which is why I believe Goody pulled the trigger early in free agency and signed Nate Hobbs, because he knew there was a chance that, you know, Ja might not be a Packer in 2025. And here we are. Ja's not a Packer. So this is the room we've got. And I'm excited for camp, man. These battles are going to be something for the ages. I'll tell you that.
Drew D says, yeah, I think Nixon is way better outside than in the slot. I completely agree with that. They completely agree with it. Mike Sandoval says, facts. I'm not a fan of Nixon in the slot, but I still think he's sloppy technique-wise. And I think part of that too, Mike, is like, you know, wasn't he undrafted? He was an undrafted player, if I remember correctly.
I think so.
So I think he was signed as an undrafted free agent with the Raiders. I could be wrong there. So,
special
again,
team guy. Played his way on.
Exactly.
Yep.
Right. And he kind of played his way into the cornerback role and getting some playing time. So when you look at it from that perspective, maybe we're setting unrealistic expectations there. And again, we talked about Nate Hobbs getting paid good money, but not getting paid CB1 money. Hell, Keyshawn Nixon, you getting paid $6 million.
Right. Quick search says that he was drafted by the Raiders in the 5th round of the 21 draft. But even still, take that 5th round into account. What was Keyshawn drafted, and then Carrington was in the 7th round. Like, we have a lot of guys in the back end, corner wise, that just have something to prove. Kamal Haddon, unrestricted. Kalen King, 7th rounder. A lot of guys that kind of got the short end of the stick, ready to prove themselves.
So who was drafted in the 5th round? I may have misunderstood.
Hobbs was drafted in the 5th. I was just wondering, was Keyshawn? When was Keyshawn drafted?
I thought Keyshawn was undrafted. Somebody wants to help us out in the chat there. I think Keyshawn was undrafted. Or you guys just do a quick Google search. That's fine.
Let's see. They had him. No, I don't see it.
AFM says Mott roll coverages. I agree, AFM. That's kind of how you can counter that, right? Especially if you come out and let's say Keyshawn's struggling on the outside and you're in your nickel and Nate Hobbs is playing good football in the slot and Carrington is just playing lights out. Roll the coverage to Keyshawn's side, right? And trust Carrington a little bit more. There you go, Drew. Thank you so much. He says undrafted. Yes. So that's what I was saying.
We have like what, 3 or 4 7th rounders, a 5th rounder, like undrafted guys. Yep. And then we have a first rounder at safety, a 2nd rounder at safety, a 3rd or 4th rounder at safety. You know what I mean? And then another 4th or 5th rounder at safety. So it's like we have guys that want to prove themselves on the outside, I think. Absolutely. Yep.
$6 million. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it hurts a little bit. It hurts. And I'm probably going to get roasted for that. And I probably deserve it. You know, maybe I don't understand that, man. I don't understand it. I mean, like the 17 million, I get it. You can't, and like Goody said, you can't do it. And here's the other thing, like, according to Jair's dad, Matt LaFleur reached out to him, told him happy birthday. So they kept a good, you know, it seemed like the coaches were on board with bringing him back. I think Hafley was on board with bringing him back. And at the same time, I feel like Hafley was a little bit irritated at times. You know, I could be wrong there, but I don't know, man. I want to just be able to
at this level, it's a business, right? And I'm sure, you know, things were probably good relationship wise, or the efforts were maybe made to reach out. But at the end of the day, the business side of things didn't line up and both parties had to move on.
Yeah. Judy says, I think Goot valued the roster spot more than Jair to let the young guys depend. We always talk about progress stoppers. So there you go. Right. That's a good point there, Drew. Chris the Casual, can Hobbs really play outside? Yo, that's the question, Chris. I'll say this, Chris. What gives me hope is I'm going to tell you 2 men that I think can help him play outside if it's in him. And his rookie year, he played the slot and he played outside a little bit. And he played damn good football. He's kind of done that his whole career. When they're in the base, he would kick outside and then he'd come back to the slot.
Can I guess the names you're going to say?
Yeah, let's hear it, Tim.
Jeff Hafley and Derek Ansley.
Sir. Yes, sir. If anybody can get it out of them, it's them, Chris. So that's giving me some hope there, man. Because again, look at what they did with Carrington last year, right?
Yep.
Like look at what Jeff Hafley did with Carrington.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think it's any coincidence that Carrington looked like absolute cheeks the year before, and then all of a sudden Jeff Hafley steps in and he's got a better passer rating when targeted than Jair did. I mean, that's kind of speaks for itself for sure. So, yeah. All right, let's see here. Greg Rice in the chat. We have a lot of slot corners. We do not have a lot of outside corners. I hope Melton is one. Yeah, I would love that. That would be great. I'm just not expecting. I think the whole Melton thing was they were light at corner that day, and that's not to say that Melton won't play corner.
Yeah.
If I were to just try to be positive here, Greg, and agree with what you're saying, there's no doubt in my mind when you seen the footwork drill that day at practice. Now, granted, it wasn't like we had all pros out there running with him. Bo had the best feet of any corner in that drill. I mean, that was really, really noticeable. So maybe he is, kind of waiting in the wings there. So.
Even if that's a spot for him to hold throughout camp to kind of keep him in the conversation for making the team, and then you get roster cuts, right? There could be some free agent corners that pop up into the mix that we could sign before the season starts. So.
Yeah,
we don't know.
Fish says, I think the Packers had just moved on. They were only going to redo the contract to make it trade friendly, no guaranteed money. They were not going to spend another dime on Ja. And that's the other thing that got reported actually by Jair's father, Deadfish. So I'm glad you brought that up. He said, we felt like the offer they gave us was just to put a deal in place so they could trade us. So it's a little bad pull there. You know what I mean? A little. Am I wrong in thinking like that's kind of dirty? Like it's, hey, yeah, let's redo this deal, and then you just ship them off. You know, like you're just trying to get that deal in place to do that. So I mean, it's business. It's business. Yep. So anyway, man, chat, you guys have been awesome tonight, dude. Thank y'all so much. Y'all carried us through that last segment there. And I just love that it's, like I said, it's June 20th. We're able to find topics like this to really dive. I learned a lot tonight. I don't know about you guys, but like just kind of digging into the numbers and who really played well, who didn't, that type of thing. So I do want to give a shout out to the points leader of the night, as we've got it tallied up here now, I believe. And it looks like Chris N. CJN, I believe it is. It's weird. It shows a different name than what he's actually. It's got their actual name as opposed to what their call sign is. But anyway, Chris N, or CJN, I think it is, 225 XP. He's the winner of the night. Drew D came in second at 150, tied with Greg Rice, United Bates, Daryl, Chris the casual in. There's Chris N. That's somebody different there, not CJN. Clint Cosgrove. They all were tied for second at 150. So the winner of the night is CJN. So,
AFAM's mom coming in at third place tonight.
AFAM's mom is an interesting lady. She's an interesting looking young lady. I'm going to say young lady. There you go. Put it back up there, Tim. What kind of haircut is that anyway, by the way? How's that? That's a piece for sure, right?
It's got
that reverse mullet.
That is. That's a skullet, right? That's the
it's a skullet, yeah.
It's a horsehair skull cap right there.
Greg Rice says, I beg to differ. She's smoking hot. Chris Coleman says Floridians. All right. Let's get out of here. This show sucks. Anything else, boys? Anything at all? We good?
I think that's it.
All right. We'll be back tomorrow for PTA Live, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Again, the best way to support what we do here, if you guys go, man, that show sucks, I feel sorry for them. I want to kick them a little bit of something. Patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access. I want to say this too. I've gotten 3 different messages from people saying, hey, can we get the YouTube membership back and rolling and into the giveaways? We may bring that back because people are requesting it. Before it was, hey, the Patreon group as well as the YouTube memberships. And 2 of the people that reached out said, I like gifting the memberships, but since you're not doing it with the giveaways, I didn't want to, I know these are people that are in our Patreon group already. So we may bring that back just because there's some people that don't use Patreon. Although I would suggest if you want to support us, the best way to do it and get extra content and be a part of the community a little more embedded outside of just the YouTube live streams is definitely patreon.com/PackerFan.
Right, because it was just tracking them down was the issue on YouTube. Like you get the gifted membership to any random that's sitting in here watching it on. Like you could have given it to the Bears fan that was in here yesterday. You know what I mean? And then he wins the road, then he wins the spin, and then how do we track him down?
Right. And the other thing too, the reason we got away from it, I'm just explaining this for those people that were interested in asking about it, is when YouTube just randomly hit us with a copyright, we didn't know what it was, and they demonetized the channel. Everyone who had a membership lost that membership all of a sudden until we got remonetized. With Patreon, it's a lot more stable in that regard. But I don't anticipate us getting in trouble with YouTube like that. Although I say that, but they're going, you need to figure out what you did, sir. Okay, we're not going to tell you. All right, got it, sir. All right, so United Bates says it sucks. YouTube membership is completely random. It says it will go to the people who interact in the chat the most, but never seems the case. Yeah, completely agree, Bates. Completely agree. So, all right, that's it. Tim, Emilio, appreciate you guys. Everybody in the chat, thank you all so much. Everybody in the Patreon group, appreciate y'all. We'll be back tomorrow. Again, we're going to do our giveaway this weekend. Anybody who's a member of the $3 tier is going to get an awesome Luke Musgrave autograph rookie card. Really piece of memorabilia.
Oh, baby.
Other than Emilio. If Emilio gets it,
I'm taking that baby home.
Nope, we're going to donate it.
Taking that baby home and trading it for a Travis Glover rookie.
You think I could? What's the conversion on that?
The conversion is you could get 5 Travis Glover. You could trade this autographed Luke Musgrave card for 5 Travis Glover autographed jerseys.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that. Maybe I could get an autographed helmet from my boy.
It's hilarious. We went to the Tennessee Titans game and there was somebody with a Travis Glover.
Dude, I'm so mad that I didn't.
Look, eating bananas on the way to the stadium. Look, Travis Glover. Shut up, Emilio.
Crackhead.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, Tim. Could be a crackhead wearing that jersey.
They got hold to the wrong stuff.
Got hold to the wrong jersey. We're out of here. Appreciate y'all. Everybody have a great night. See you.
Here we go.
We're out. Bye, guys.